Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. A few days ago, Russian President Putin visited the Middle East and met with leaders from the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. You will find that after the war in Ukraine, Putin rarely visited abroad and almost disappeared from the international diplomatic stage. In March of this year, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Putin, accusing him of committing war crimes. At that time, Russia's diplomatic situation was actually in a very awkward position. Why? Because the International Criminal Court has a total of 123 member countries, including most countries in Europe and South America, as well as nearly two-thirds of African countries. EU member states are all parties to this International Criminal Court. If at this time, due to diplomatic affairs, Russia's head of state is going to visit a country that is a contracting party to the International Criminal Court, what should we do then? If you sign an international treaty as a contracting party, you need to abide by it. Otherwise, if you don't abide by it even if you sign it, then there is no need for this international organization to exist. So, as the host country, it will be very difficult. Putin has not visited abroad for most of this year, including the BRICS summit in South Africa in August and the APEC summit in the United States, but he did not attend in person. The APEC summit in the United States was not well understood, and the BRICS summit in South Africa in August was only attended online, mainly because South Africa is a contracting party to the International Criminal Court. It does not attend the venue and participates online, avoiding the embarrassment of the host country. Because the South African president was already questioned by Western journalists before the summit. South Africa said they have invited Putin, while Russia said they will send Foreign Minister Lavrov to attend the meeting. Putin will attend online. This is definitely an agreement between both parties, and both parties are willing to step down. In addition, neither the United States nor China has joined this International Criminal Court, and Russia actually withdrew in 2016. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have not joined the International Criminal Court, and India and Indonesia also have not. The key is that neither of the two most powerful superpowers on earth has joined, so this court has not truly ruled on a few cases. At most, they have made judgments against some dictators in small African countries. At that time, Putin was actually quite isolated. Although from Russia's perspective, the Ukrainian war was forced into a corner by the United States and NATO and had to be fought back, but in the current international environment, let alone the Western world, even the majority of Third World countries oppose the use of force to invade a sovereign country. After all, it's already the 21st century, and everyone is busy making money and developing. No one wants to go to war. So, we see that even India, a traditional ally of Russia, said to Putin in front of their Prime Minister Modi during the meeting, "This is not an era of war." Putin was particularly embarrassed, so he had to agree a few times and explain to Modi that he was also forced by NATO. Putin's situation is much better now, as Western journalists at the time widely publicized that Putin had committed war crimes. But now, Israel's blatant massacre of civilians in Gaza is a clear act of genocide. The West has not exerted any pressure on Israel or Netanyahu, let alone prosecuting him in national criminal courts. To put it simply, the double standards of the West have reduced the moral and public pressure that Putin faces when he visits abroad. Putin visited China in October and attended the Belt and Road Summit in China. China did not join the International Criminal Court, and at that time, the Western world's attention was drawn to Gaza. Even in this situation, China is still heavily promoted by the West for supporting Putin's war against Ukraine behind the scenes. Speaking of which, I actually admire the brainwashing ability to reverse black and white of Western media. Most of the time, they cut Putin and Russia apart, creating a feeling that Putin has already become estranged in Russia. Either it gives you a feeling that Putin does not represent the Russian nation. They never tell you that Russia's political system is federal, based on the principle of separation of legislative, judicial, and executive powers. Because after the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the overall political and economic system of Russia was operated by Americans, and there was also a shock therapy in the economy, which everyone saw as a result. Let's not say to what extent these principles can be implemented in Russia, because I am not a Russian research expert either. However, Russia's political system is federal, with a structure of separation of legislative, judicial, and executive powers, which is not a problem. Moreover, Russia implements direct elections, which means that the president is directly elected by the people. Western media will never tell you that Putin has a support rate of nearly 80% domestically, that is to say, Putin's actions can represent the public opinion of the vast majority of the Russian people. According to Western standards, why is this not democratic? Will it not be more undemocratic than Saudi Arabia, an ally of the United States? No wonder Putin's resentment towards the West is so great. The Soviet Union has disintegrated, and Russia has reformed its political and economic system according to Americans' wishes. As a result, Americans still don't recognize it. Putin's application to join NATO has been rejected several times in a row. Moreover, NATO has repeatedly expanded eastward, constantly challenging Russia's bottom line. So, in this world, represented by the United States, the Western world will not open its arms to welcome you and sincerely accept you just because you are implementing a democratic system. Only interest is the fundamental logic behind the operation of this world. Only by mastering this fundamental logic, you can see the essence through phenomena and avoid being biased by the media. Going too far, when Putin visited the Middle East a few days ago, the conflict was quite intense. For Su-35 fighter jets carrying live ammunition escorted, which is actually a high-profile announcement of their return to the international diplomatic stage. Nowadays, the Western world is ignoring one aspect and neglecting the other, pressing the gourd and lifting the gourd. The Ukrainian war has now turned into a trench war like World War I. In a war of attrition, Russia is really not afraid of Ukraine. After all, Russia's size is there. Visiting the Middle East at this time is actually a great time. The bottomless support from the West for Israel has actually caused great dissatisfaction in the Arab and Islamic world. They also sent a delegation to visit China in November this year to seek its support. China certainly supports the Palestinian people, as it has always adhered to the two-state solution in the Palestinian region. Putin's visit to the Middle East at this time is actually a signal to support Palestine in the Arab and Islamic world. Although Western media is sour, there is nothing they can do, so they basically declare that at least on the diplomatic level, Russia and Putin have returned. On the other hand, Ukraine seems to have been ignored, and recently the U.S. Senate has blocked the Biden administration's proposal for $60 billion in aid to Ukraine. Whether Ukraine can continue to receive sustained support from Western allies in the future depends on the situation on the battlefield. This is also why Zelensky insists on continuing to attack the front line arranged by Russia, regardless of casualties and opposition from the commander-in-chief of the troops. After all, what cannot be obtained on the battlefield, don't expect it in diplomacy either. Okay, that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. Welcome to subscribe and like.